All right, everybody, what is going on? Hope you guys are still doing well today. And I want to take a video here, and I know we're kind of in a hurry this week because we've got a game tomorrow, quick turnaround. We're trying to get through all this stuff that we need to get through before we get to the game. But I want to take a video here to discuss one of the many things that has allowed Seattle to have such a good team this year, because there's a lot that goes into a team that is sitting at 11-3, especially in a division that is this tough. Going 11-3 in this division, and I mean, two of our losses are in the division. That's no joke. So, want to take a look at this tweet, and I know this is a 49ers account on X, but nevertheless, even though it's obviously meant to talk about how good the 49ers are doing, it actually illustrates how good Seattle is doing. So we're going to take a look at this chart that tells you about the special teams and how good they are in Seattle. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you guys about Sleeper. I'll tell you a little secret as well. It's more than just a platform for fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users have enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but there's so much more to it. You have live stats, real-time updates of all stats. You have a news feed with lightning-fast updates on players and teams, and a real-time chat where you can engage with other users about plays, performances, games, all kinds of stuff during the sports season. So download Sleeper, experience it for yourself, and don't forget to use my promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit, and pair that with their new promo that will give you a free $20 entry, no deposit needed. So you can use both of those promos. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and going. So check out Sleeper today and use those promos. All right, so this chart's pretty simple. It depicts special teams EPA through week 15, which is where we are right now. Week 15 wrapped up with the Monday night game. So this is where we are right now. The chart tells you what you need to know. The numbers tell you what you need to know. Seattle leads the entire NFL in EPA on special teams, 55.2, which is a pretty good amount ahead of number 2, which is San Francisco. And that's why this X account posted this, because it's a San Francisco X account. And then there's another sizable, decent drop off to the Jets, then another big drop off to the Texans, then a monster drop off to Cincinnati, and then everything kind of runs together. But it does kind of illustrate how far these four teams are ahead of the pack. And it illustrates also how Seattle is pretty far ahead of even that pack. They have the best special teams in football this year. And there's a lot that goes into that, obviously. There's a lot to discuss with something like that. The big piece is clearly Jason Myers. And I wrote an article for Seahawks on SI that went up this morning. Go check it out, by the way, if you haven't already. And this isn't really a secret anymore. Jason Myers has a very good chance to not only have the greatest season by any kicker in Seahawks history, but maybe set some all-time records. So, first of all, he's already probably having the best season by any Seahawks kicker ever. Obviously, if he misses 10 kicks over the next 3 days, maybe not, or 3 games, excuse me. But as of right now, he already has the record for field goals made in one season with 37. The previous record was held by him, by the way, with 35 in 2023. So it's his own record he's breaking. But the previous record before the 17-game season was, I think, Todd Peterson in 1999 with 34. And we've only played 14 games. So even if you want to say, well, it's a 17-game season now, that doesn't matter. The 17-game season does not matter when you're talking about a guy who's gotten there in just 14 games. He's already tied his own record for field goals attempted in a season with 42. So he's definitely going to break that. Not that that's necessarily something you want, but he's still going to do it. And he's doing this with above average efficiency. I know he hasn't made every kick, but 88% is, I think the league average is like 84. So 88%, that is well above average. And for a guy with this kind of volume is actually really impressive. By the way, he's also made all of his extra points this year. So if you want to throw that onto the pile, you can. He's been an effective kicker on kickoffs. He's got 16 touchbacks on 87 kicks. And remember, touchbacks are the things you don't want because the ball goes out to the 35 now. So low percentage of touchbacks, 18.4. Not super low by the standards of every other kicker in the league, but it's in line with about the average. So he's fine. Kickoff average is 61 yards approximately, which is really good. You don't want to go above 65 because then you're kicking it into the end zone, and that's what you want to avoid. So he's doing good stuff as a kickoff guy as well. And by the way, and I kind of buried the lead here a little bit, he's got a very good chance of breaking the all-time NFL record for field goals made in a season. He's already tied for 15th with 37. He's got 3 games left. The all-time record is held by David Akers. In 2011, 44 field goals. Which, by the way, is a crazy statistical aberration in and of itself. 44 field goals in a 16-game season is absolutely crazy. And not only is Jason Myers on pace, more or less, to break that, he's on pace, based on the last few games he's played, to break it with a game to spare. And then there's nothing you can say, right? Because Akers did it in 16 games. If Myers does it in 17, people are going to say, well, you know, he needed the extra game. But, and this is the thing that is kind of interesting here, Myers might do it before that 17th game. And then what are you going to say? At the rate that he's been kicking field goals over the last few games for Seattle, he's got 13 made over his last 3 games. He's going to get to 50. Now, I don't think he's going to do that. I don't think I want him to do that because, duh, I want to score touchdowns. But the reality is Seattle's offense is having problems finishing drives, and Myers has really helped mitigate the damage there by making all these field goals. So he needs 7 to tie the record and 8 to break with 3 games left. I'd bet on him. I'd say, yeah, he's probably going to do it. I imagine that he would probably hit that, and maybe even with a couple field goals to spare. Just the way things are going right now. So, worth keeping an eye on. By the way, if you exclude David Akers' crazy secretariat in his prime type season that he had, which is just insane, you can see that a lot of the top spots are taken up by players that did play with the 17-game season. Boswell, Aubrey, Daniel Carlson, which really illustrates how crazy Akers' season was and how crazy it would be if Myers actually gets to like 46 or something. Okay, so we got that going on. I already talked about the kickoff stuff, but Seattle's 5th in the league in kickoff average. So you technically want to be a little bit closer. You want it to be up like, you'd prefer your kickoffs to go 64 yards every time. If you could get your kickoff to go 64 yards exactly every time, that's like the dream. But Seattle's top 5 there. They're about kind of in line with most other teams in terms of touchback percentage at 18.4. So they're at least good there. And their kickoff return average is quite strong as well. It's almost bottom 5. And that's where you want to be, right? You don't want to be in the top. You want to be near the bottom. So really cool stuff going on there. Now, you do have Michael Dickson. Now, Michael Dickson, in terms of yards per punt, having one of his best seasons ever, 49.6. His record is 50 in 2023. So he's less than half a yard away per punt from his best. Now, there's been a little bit of success returning the ball. And honestly, I mean, let's be real here. This mostly stems from that one, 90-yard punt return touchdown against Tennessee. That's going to completely jack with your averages. But you factor that in, his net yards per punt is a little bit disappointing. 42.3, he's usually a little better than that. He was better last year, the year before, the year before. Only a couple years early in his career was he below 42.3. So, yeah, a little bit lacking there. But again, it's mostly one play that should have been called back anyway. His touchback percentage is very low, less than 7%, lowest it's been in some time. And also, he's not punting nearly as much as he typically does because this offense is better than it's been in quite some time in at least driving down to get points. So, that's an element here too. I'm not saying that Dixon's the best punter in the league, but he is one of the better ones, and he's part of the solution when it comes to what we see right here. He's part of the reason why this is here. So we got Dixon here. And then you've got, okay, well, this is the punting chart, by the way, to illustrate that 49.6, which is his average, is actually 6th in the league, and it should be 5th because Matt Hack only played 4 games. But it's kind of to illustrate that if you just take his gross, it's very good. The net is a little bit less impressive, right? Because he's had some decent returns on him. But it's still actually top. It's still actually in the upper half of the league. So either way, Dixon is part of the solution way more than he's a part of the problem. And then finally, you have the return game. The return game with kickoffs, where a couple things going on here. Now, first, Derek Young, I want to draw attention to this because it's easy to forget this. When Derek Young was returning kicks for Seattle, he was actually one of the best in the league at it. 32.2 yards per return. Only 2 players in the league had a better kickoff return average, and both of them had a 95-plus yard kickoff return for a touchdown. Derek Young did not have that yet. His high was a 60, so he was right up there, man. And if he had been able to bust a touchdown return at some point, he probably would have been right between these two. And obviously, Derek Young has only returned 10 kickoffs this year, but it's just to illustrate that he was doing a very good job of it when he had that job. And then Shaheed comes here, and some of this is from the Saints, but a lot of it isn't. So he's top 10 as well in average kickoff return, right? And he had the 100-yarder here in Seattle for the touchdown. By the way, 100 yards, the longest kick return this season. No one else has had a 100-yarder or more. So he's been great since he got here. His Seattle average on kickoff returns is probably higher than his overall average because of the 100-yarder. You're probably looking at top 5 if you just look at his Seattle returns. So that's a part of this too. And punt returns. Don't forget about punt returns either. And I'm going to do the same thing with Torrey Horton that I just did with Derek Young. He was doing great stuff before he got shelved with the injury. And then we got Rashid Shaheed. Torrey Horton, granted, mostly because of one long return. That's kind of a familiar refrain for most of these guys, if we're being honest. But still, averaging about 15 yards per return on 16 punt returns. Had the touchdown against New Orleans, which is probably going to be the longest punt return of any punt returner this season. Really good, really valuable, really, really nice asset here. So we had that. That was a big positive. Horton was doing great. Shaheed, he's up here too. Not quite as good as he as Horton was doing, and maybe not quite as good as a lot of people were anticipating. But the thing to keep in mind again is that it's a cumulative effort with Shaheed and Horton. You mush those two together and just take a look at what they've done in Seattle. We're getting well above average to good, maybe even great work from our punt returners. The only thing I would say maybe is Shaheed is fair catching punts inside the 10-yard line a little too much. Other than that, though, this team is getting some real miles out of their punt returners. And a couple of the guys that are up here, like Tom Kennedy, barely have any punt returns at all, so they shouldn't be here. So however you want to slice it, man, the special teams, I just ran through basically everything, right? Everything's working. The coverage teams are good, maybe not quite as good as like the 2013 unit that was so historically great, but it's very good. And it's coming together, man. And the last thing I want to say in this video is shout out to Jay Harbaugh. It was not a very good year last year for him. A lot of people, myself included, wondered if maybe he was somebody who was just here as a favor to John and Jim, but he's done his thing. And you gave him an offseason to go get his players and the players that he wanted. And you've seen great return on that investment. He's been, I mean, he's not going to win Assistant of the Year or anything because I don't think special teams coaches ever do that. But he's added a lot of value to this team. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. More stuff coming soon. Got plenty more to talk about, but I imagine that there will be at least one more video later today. Maybe I'll stream. Everybody, go Hawks. Let me know what you think of the special teams. Having a good time.